Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 6 of Roshidere, or Alia Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, Kuze joined the student council, and he's actually proved to be pretty effective, and even beyond that, he's, I don't know if he's announced it, but he's basically set it in stone that he's going to be helping Alia run, which, that kind of puts him in an odd spot with his sister, but, I guess that's a bridge everyone's just gonna have to cross later. It's interesting that he's being treated as a junior, essentially, because while he is, I feel like he does have more experience than most at this whole student council business stuff. So I guess, it seems like it's back to business as usual. Although, there's something there. Something about, budgets. And for Suo to bring that up, I think she's, planning something. There's some sort of subterfuge going on here. And Kuze is definitely aware of it, too. I've noticed between this episode so far and the previous episode, there hasn't been much in the way of Alia hiding her feelings in Russian. And something tells me she's not going to start right now either if she's initiating a conversation. So I guess the question is, what is Alia bringing up? Is it going to be the student council stuff or more Kuze-related stuff? Well, I guess she's opted to compromise and do a bit of both, but I guess the question is, to what end is this conversation taking place? Is Suo gonna throw down the gauntlet here? Yeah, this does seem like a bit of a challenge on Alia's part, saying, hey, Kuze and I are running together, and I'm also not apologizing. So maybe I'm reading a bit too far into this, but this seems like a bit of verbal sparring here, where, Suo parries what Alia says, basically like, yeah, you didn't do anything wrong, and it's up for Kuze to decide what he does. Ooh. Wow, that's a bold strategy for Suo, just to say, yeah, no, I do love him. Even though you're not asking the question clearly and forthrightly. Something's going on here. I wasn't, I don't want to say not all that fond of Suo, but I thought, she's kind of a gremlin, but, I'm thinking, she's kind of warming up to me now. Or rather, I to her. for her to force an interaction like this, basically saying like, come on now, Alia, be honest. You know, I'm being honest here. It's your turn. This is something. I mean, this is advanced bullying just to like, you know, back her into a literal corner. Oh boy. So that's something, you know, Alia won't even admit she loves him, but she vows to oppose Suo, so like, that's kind of a wimpy declaration. Yeah, you know, I think this is an unmitigated Suo victory. And if that weren't enough, she's basically saying like, hey, can I call you Alia too, even though we know that was essentially Kuze's exclusive right. Man, and she's just giving it up. Like, Suo bros, I think we win. Like, man, just like that, they're on a first name basis. Man, you know, this really makes me wonder, to what end is Suo doing all this stuff? Like, is she playing some, you know, fourth dimensional chess here to try and, like, set Alia up? Or is she trying to, like, get her to focus more on romance rather than running for office? I feel like if she were being altruistic, it would be the former, but I suspect the latter. Just because, you know, she's a bit of a wild card. Ooh. You know, if somebody's just made a mess of books, I don't think it's a good idea to send them over to the library to help restock. Man. I mean, the president's just getting rid of her transparently and blatantly. Like, surely she's a, you know, a colleague, right? Man. So I guess this just leaves Kuze with Alia's sister and the president, and something tells me something's gonna be going on here too. Oh, that might be a bit of a tactical error on Kuze's part if he wants to hide his knowledge of Russian. You know, apparently they put jam in their tea. And he's saying like, oh yeah, Russians do that, I'll have some. Like, huh. And he's also displaying like topical knowledge of Russia and how they drink tea and stuff like that. Like, you know, if he wanted to hide his skills in Russian, maybe he should, you know, shut his mouth. Yeah, I mean, here we go. Alia's sisters picked up on it. Basically, it's like, oh yeah, so you know stuff about Russia, do you? Yeah, you know, he's tellingly leaving out the fact that he studied to impress a girl, but, you know, I don't think he has to go right out and say it for it to become apparent. So I'm wondering, is this the tea they picked up before in one of the previous episodes? Could very well be the case, but I guess more importantly it reminds Kuze of his mother. And something tells me it's likely not a good thing that he's being reminded of this. I believe we got little hints of that before, but nothing concrete. But like, really? Like, they actually do mix jam in with their tea. I guess I could believe that. You know, it's something sweet, but I don't know. I guess I'm not much of a tea drinker anyways, so, you know, this would be kind of strange in and of itself. Ooh. Yeah, this is definitely the fallout from that conversation. Essentially, like... Oh. Okay, so she's making up transparent lies about how it's bad luck in Russia to sit at the corner of a table, but... Yeah. That smile on Suo's face should tell Kuze everything he needs to know. Something's going on here, and it ain't good. And shame on him for asking Alia's sister. She can't be trusted to tell the truth in a situation like this, when she's actively rooting for her little sister. Ooh. I feel like that shouldn't be a controversial thing to say, that marriage isn't yet in the cards. It's my understanding that typically you have to be an adult first. Wow. That is a lot of jam. I feel like just eating it by itself, that's a bit bizarre. I'm not much for jam on toast or anything like that, but a good PB&J sandwich, you can really go wrong with that. But even then, I prefer more peanut butter than jelly. Ooh. So they're going to get fast food. I guess the question is, are we going to get a classic and iconic scene of Alia eating a huge, messy cheeseburger? Because personally, I think that's what I'd like to see out of this. For someone who's so concerned about the student council presidency, she's seemingly far more concerned with this being a date. It's like, take what you can get, really. Although it seems we are to be disappointed. There are no big sloppy cheeseburgers. It's just, parfaits or smoothies or whatever you would call them. Ooh. So is Kuze going to drop some knowledge that he and Suo are sister and brother? Because I feel like, it's not common knowledge, I suppose. Well, that's interesting. He's just giving up the game, saying that Suo's messing around with you. But tellingly, he does avoid their nature as siblings. I wonder what's behind that. Isn't it the natural response if somebody says, hey, are you dating? And you're like, oh, no. No, we're related. We wouldn't date. I feel like that would be the normal thing, and that it's being danced around. That's suspicious. I'm wondering if that's a bit of a plot convenience. Essentially that the fact that they may be dating is something Alia will worry about. Interesting. So I guess they're just really getting into the sort of electoral business of the student council presidency. And if I'm being honest, I really don't care about this stuff. It might be a bit harsh to say, but I feel like the more interesting stuff is how these two get along, and all the funny stuff she says in Russian that she thinks can't be understood by anyone else. I guess I get that we have to have something to drive the plot and provide circumstances for things to happen, but I don't know. I guess it's also interesting that, Alia is wondering why he's not bothered by things. And, maybe that's just how he is, sort of generally unflappable. But, he certainly seems to know a lot about the politics and all the underhandedness that go on in the elections. And, man. Oh. Did she just take his parfait? Or, hold on. Was that in, the smoothie or whatever? Were they both hers? Because one was clearly sitting in front of him. Oh, okay. So she's playing a different game entirely here. You know, she's more concerned about a date. He's more concerned about the politics. So it's like, all right, here, let's have a little indirect kiss. And just, like, imagine that. He turns her down. It's like, could you get a clean spoon for me? It's like, no. Like, put this spoon in your mouth ASAP. And it's like, boy, there's nothing tactful about what she's doing. And, you know, in her own words, she's trying to get him into the mood here. This isn't gonna do it, you know? I mean, well, maybe it is, but her approach is certainly suboptimal. I mean, if everybody's, like, turning to watch him, too, like, they're making a spectacle out of themselves more than doing anything romantic. And I guess if that weren't bad enough, there might be a bit of a third wheel here, shortly. You know, that Taniyama girl, I think, if I recall, she was, like a manager for the baseball club, something like that. Ooh. Okay. So I guess Kuze's also giving this, you know, important information here that incumbency, or rather former tenure in the student council doesn't necessarily help or ensure your victory. You know, you have to, you have to campaign, I suppose. And I guess like a sort of rags to riches story of the current student council president being fat and then getting ripped. You know, I guess like a story like that would really get people energized to vote for him. You know, more so than like a stuffy quote-unquote career politician. You know, insofar as the term applies in school. So I guess the question is, you know, with the specter of the spoon sitting around, like, they can't really formulate a coherent campaign for Alia, because, like, ideally, you would try and engineer something similar, but, you know, what do you do, really? It's like, oh, yeah, this girl came to this country, and she is so dedicated to it and the education of its students that she's willing to serve on the student council, you know, something like that. I don't know how well that would really work. But yeah, you know, rather than actually talking the politics that I've now become invested in, you know, now they're talking about like, ooh, you don't want to, you know, swap spit with my spoon, you have to get your own stuff. And it seems like Alia cooked up a lie that Russians do the indirect kiss thing a lot when, you know, she was really telling a fib. Alright, so she's finally getting around to this campaigning business, and, okay, so Kuze's saying, like, the key is your diligence. You know, you have to show them how you're a hard worker, but I think just her being a hard worker isn't gonna cut it, you know. Her stubbornness, I feel, is gonna have to be tempered by Kuze's pragmatism. Because, you know, that's something of a running theme so far already, where she's willing to just brute force things, whereas he, you know, applies the force correctly so that things get done with minimal effort. And, you know, I suppose that could work. I guess they'd really just have to translate it into a meaningful political campaign. You know, maybe their best bet would be a lot of, like, publicity stunts. Maybe not publicity stunts, but, like, Alia doing charitable acts around the school. Aw. Man, imagine having to double down on the lie that you can tolerate spicy food. I mean, that seems like a special kind of hell. 'Cause, like, you know, not only is, like, the whole thing marinated in spice, but like, oh dear. This is the truest depiction of Suo, the devil on Kuze's shoulder. Unfortunately, it seems as though evil might be winning out. Like, he's actually doing it. He's deliberately giving her a whole chili pepper. Like, oh boy. And like, she can't back down. That's already what she's thinking. Oh, man. Man, I certainly hope she has some of that parfait left over because, like, sugar and dairy, like, that's what saves you from capsaicin. Water won't cut it. Yeah, she says she's fine, but she's still clutching her wounded mouth. You know, at this point, I think I'd like to remind everyone that capsaicin, the chemical compound responsible for spiciness, is used as a defense mechanism by plants to ward off predators. Like, it's an actual chemical weapon used by plants. You know, just because we eat it doesn't mean, you know, necessarily we should. Ooh. So that's an interesting expression that, what was her name? Tamiyama? She took to the wire? Whatever that means. I suppose she took her loss poorly to Kuze. So, I guess the idea here is that she's going to be a bitter political rival. Ooh boy. How's that for, Oh no, never mind. Different character. I was gonna say, wouldn't it be something if she joined the student council too, but, no, we get a new soft-spoken character. Huh. So it seems like Suo might have engineered this situation. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.